Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Maggard, and
Hoppy Cantrell.
welcome back, Hop. It's good to have you back on the channel.
Great to be back on the channel. I just want to say, go ahead, everyone down below, hit subscribe. This is just a good group of guys. We ain't trying to take no money from y'all. We're just sitting here having fun, trying to give y'all some entertainment. So go ahead and hit subscribe. It cannot hurt you. I'm excited to be back on these videos on this podcast.
Yep, love having you back. It's always a good time. A little bit less lonely than it was the last two recording sessions. So have a little bit back and forth. Obviously, we'll just go ahead and dive right on into it. This is it. This is the final mock. This is what we think is the most likely outcome. So what we think happens on Thursday when these draft picks are made in the first round. Open it up with the Titans, of course, my favorite team. I've said it many, many times. I think it's pretty much locked down. It's an easy pick. Cam Ward will be the guy for the Titans for the future. They've shored up their offensive line, going out and signing a left tackle and a right guard. And the right guard, again, I'm very happy with the addition of Zeiler. He's very good, has a lot of potential to protect Cam Ward and keep him healthy. And then I really like our offensive lineman we drafted the last 2 years in Skoronski at left guard. And then, of course, J.C. Latham at right tackle. So if we can just get some good left tackle play, I think we have a pretty good offensive line. You could put a guy behind it who will have a good running back in the backfield with him, and Tony Pollard, who's experienced, and then a good receiver in Calvin Ridley to throw it out to. I think you're definitely looking for some help in this draft in the second round, but you just set Cam Ward up for success early on if his line plays good and he's got that welcome receiver on the outside to throw to. And obviously, Hoppy, moving on to number two. That's you, pal.
Yeah, I just want to say I think that's what's going to happen at number one. I think you got that pick right, and I like what you said about Calvin Ridley too, man. He put up some great numbers at the end of the year last year, so Cam Ward would probably benefit from having him out there. But I'm going to go number two here, and I'm not sure what the Browns are going to do. But I'm going to pick what I think they should do here because I think that's another way to do this. And I'm going to take Abdul Carter. I think this team needs another edge rusher. It's an important position. You know, Miles Garrett ain't going to always be around, and this team isn't necessarily win ready. So I think getting another edge rusher can get them another step into building that championship contender in the future.
Yeah, and it's a complete toss-up. I mean, that is a pick that's 50-50. You're looking at a guy that, by my standards, is the best player in the draft, and Abdul Carter. I think he is the number one player in this class. And then you're looking at Travis Hunter. Those are two players that are literally complete toss-ups. I think whichever one doesn't go at two is going at three. I think either team is going to be happy with the player they get because they can be complete difference makers at those positions that they're going to play. Of course, Abdul Carter playing the edge rusher position, and then moving on to number three here with the Giants and Travis Hunter playing corner and receiver. I think this is a team that if he comes into, he will be the number one corner and potentially be the number one receiver. Not even potentially, he will be. And that's a team that can probably use him to the fullest extent. They need a number one receiver very, very bad. Some mock draft specialists and guys that are really covering this draft in depth and talking to teams, they say he's going to play receiver a lot. And then we have other guys saying that he's best at corner, so they think he should stay out and play corner. It's an interesting thing. It's a dynamic that we'll not really see until the season starts. What will teams do? I mean, I guess we'll kind of learn a little bit of thing in the preseason, but again, Travis Hunter's a phenomenal player. The Giants are going to be very happy about getting him at three. And I also think our good buddy Joey, who will talk about the draft afterwards with us, he's going to love that pick too if they end up landing Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I'm going to be taken here at number four with the Patriots, and I think it's the boring pick. It's the one we've made over and over again. It's Will Campbell. When you got a quarterback like Drake May in there who is starting to show improvement, you don't want him to get hurt and that improvement to stop. So you want to get a guy that can keep him out on the field, give him time to make the plays that he can make.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely pick. I mean, Will Campbell is the best offensive lineman in the draft process. He set himself up well with a pretty good combine. He's very athletic for the tackle position, and he does have long enough arms to stick out there. Now, he isn't the preferred length of arm, but again, this is a guy that proved his worth while playing college football last year, and he is very, very good. I think that they've been very linked to the Patriots. And again, you got to protect Drake May. You cannot see him face early injuries because that's derailed a lot of quarterbacks' careers. And if they're relying on him to be the next guy, like a Tom Brady maybe, they have to keep him healthy. That has to happen. Moving on to number five here with the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that I think can go a lot of ways here, but I'm just going to settle in on what I think is the best available player on the board for them, and that's Mason Graham. He's an interior defensive lineman that will absolutely wreak havoc. He is arguably the best guy in this draft class, and some people would argue that with you. Now, again, I have Abdul Carter ahead of him. I have Travis Hunter ahead of him, but he is good enough to be in that conversation. He was one of the best defensive linemen we've watched in college football last year, and they're saying he shares some similar traits to an Aaron Donald. So, anybody that you hear compared to Aaron Donald is an NFL Hall of Fame potential. So, again, you can't miss him when you desperately need interior defensive line. I hate that the Jaguars are getting him as they are a rival of ours, but I think it's definitely the right pick at 5.
Yeah, and I'll come in here at number 6 with another guy who has some NFL Hall of Fame potential, and I think you would agree with me on that. I'm just gonna take Genty, and as a Broncos fan, I should probably hate the Raiders, but if they get this guy, it's gonna be impossible to hate them. They're gonna have such a fun offense. I think their receivers are underrated. Their quarterback, they just signed Geno, so they got a new quarterback. It's going to be very exciting for any fan of this team to watch next year if they get Genty. So I hope that's what they do.
Yeah, shout out to our boy Jay Mitch, of course, being a big time Raiders fan, and I think he'd be pretty happy with the Genty land here. Again, you grabbed your quarterback in the offseason. You got a guy who's been very successful behind a pretty bad offensive line. Now you slot him in behind a pretty solid offensive line. And did we mention he gets Genty and Brock Bowers to play with? So again, you're talking about elite talent at the running back and tight end position. It's definitely a fun landing spot for Geno and a good thing for Raiders fans. Moving on to number 7 with the New York Jets, a team that just said, you know what, we're throwing you $40 million, Justin Fields. We believe in you. We think you can be the guy. What it needs to happen is they got to protect him. And Armand Membu has absolutely boosted his draft stock to the ceiling. A guy that performed at the combine very, very well, has the arm length that they want from offensive tackles, was very, very good in college. A guy that early in the process was considered to be a top 20 pick. Now he lands inside our top 10. And again, if you watch the NFL draft, linemen go off the board every single year very high because it's the important position on the outside. If you do not have good tackles, your quarterback is going to get killed. If he gets killed, he will get hurt, and then he won't be the kind of guy he could have been. I've watched the Titans not protect their quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill, who had an awesome start to his career with Tennessee, broke his ankle and never was the same guy. If you don't keep your guy healthy, then he can't be the kind of guy that you're hoping he will be when you pay him all that money. So Armand Membu comes in and protects Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I think the fans, some of them might want you to take Sanders there, but if they're paying Fields, why not, go protect him? It's like that makes more sense. Either way, I'm picking here at 8 with the Panthers, and I've been looking at them several times as we've done these, and I've picked defense every time. But in this particular case today, I think I'm going to change my mind right before the draft and take Tedoroto McMillan. Bryce Young is a young quarterback, and it's at a point where the Panthers just need to bet on their man. They're playing him, so why not help him out a little bit, get an offensive piece in the first round.
Yeah, and again, Tedero McMillan is a phenomenal receiver. He's a big threat on the outside, 6'4", 6'5". I've talked about it many times. He has the ability to be a superstar receiver. He's shown flashes of being that guy. I mean, he went for 308 yards and 12 catches last year in a game to start the season for Arizona. When you're that good in college, you can come into the league and be a producer. Again, they drafted Xavier Leggett last year, who did not have the best rookie season ever. So now you're adding Tedero to that weapons. And again, it's a lot better than it has been for Bryce Young. And he actually looked pretty good towards the end of the season. So you grab him a weapon. I would like to mention, this being our last mock draft, this is either, to me, receiver or an edge rusher. We've done the edge rusher a million times. I think that if Tedero is available at 8, they're definitely thinking about that. Another name I like to throw in there is a Jalen Walker, who's been hooked to them for a long time. But today we're going Tedero, and that's our final decision on that pick. Moving on to number 9, with the quarterback being needy here, it just makes way too much sense for a guy like Shedeur Sanders to land with the Saints. If you remember the last highly accurate quarterback that played for the New Orleans Saints, he's a Hall of Famer and won a Super Bowl there. So again, is he Drew Brees? No, he isn't. He's not as good of a prospect. He's not as good of a player. But is he as accurate as Drew Brees was? Yes, very, very accurate quarterback. Over 70% completion percentage. Does not turn the ball over that much. Had a terrible offensive line multiple years in college and still produced with the highest levels of quarterback play. I mean, this is a guy that is considered the second best quarterback in this class. And again, not a strong quarterback class, but being a top 5 quarterback in any class is impressive. I think Shedeur Sanders will end up with the Saints after the recent Derek Carr news. And again, It just makes a lot of sense for New Orleans to go out and grab that highly accurate passer in Shedeur Sanders.
All right, I'm on the clock here again at number 10 with the Chicago Bears. I'm gonna be picking Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Yeah, so I went with Kelvin Banks here for the Bears because I think we got to protect Caleb Williams. He's not necessarily my favorite quarterback, but it goes back to he is your guy, so you have to bet on him to come out there and do good. And he's not going to do good unless they can shore up that O line. And even if they had a great O line, it still wouldn't be a bad pick because there's always injuries on that O line every year. And I think Kelvin Banks can definitely help them slide into different positions at the guard or tackle.
Yeah, and if you remember early in the process, we were picking Kelvin Banks at this spot the whole entire draft early on. I mean, it was pretty common that we had Kelvin Banks as our second best offensive lineman in the draft. I think he was very good at Texas. I think it makes a ton of sense for the Bears alone because of the need of a guard slash tackle player that can do both. Maybe slot into either position, but also guard being the strong suit probably in the NFL for Banks, although he played tackle in college. I love the pick a lot for them. I think it just adds a depth guy, like you said, even if he isn't starting at one of those positions, which I think he will end up doing. And that is something you can't have too many of. You always need more offensive linemen, tackle or guards. Moving on to the Niners here at number 11. And this is an interesting team because it's a team I think would like to take a Kelvin Banks type of player with the need at guard and tackle. Also looking at the interior of their defensive line. But I think a guy we've been a little bit low on this entire process that I think maybe NFL GMs aren't is Will Johnson. The corner from Michigan that was arguably going to be the number one corner in this class prior to the injury. And the injury isn't something that should change his career. He should still be able to return and be the kind of guy he was, producing at that high level. Very good ball hawking corner that had again, two pick sixes in college. So in those 5 to 6 games he played this year, he flashed the talent that is Will Johnson. It's just the injury scares some teams off of him. I think come down late in the process, teams are saying, hey, he's healed up a little bit. Looking at him and later having these interviews with him and stuff, I think teams are going to like him, and the Niners are a team that certainly can use a corner on the outside.
All right, I'm going to be taking pick number 12 here with my wife's favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. And I think they go here with Matthew Golden. Although I would like them to take a defensive piece here, I think they can get that later on down in a later round. And they take the fast guy out of Texas, ran the fastest receiver 40 time in the combine. And he can be a good outside guy to maybe spark up that offense who kind of had a down season.
And again, you're talking about a guy, like you said, fastest 40 time, running a 4.29 at the combine. Unbelievable speed. That was not expected from Golden. Again, this was a guy that everybody thought he's got pretty sure hands. He's good on the deep ball, but nobody thought he was running 4.29. So with that kind of impressive speed, he's drastically boosted his draft stock. Again, the reason I think he goes here is this is a team that has had issues with the receiver position. They've been relying on older players that are not named CeeDee Lamb. They've also been relying on guys that are more of kickoff specialists and not really receivers. You go out now, you grab Matthew Golden, who again can be your number one on the outside. Now, again, CeeDee Lamb is still your best player clearly on that offense. But he plays a lot of slot, and that's kind of the preferred position for him because of how good of a route runner he is and the difference he can make on the interior. And then also with a Golden on this team, you can still put CeeDee on the other outside, and now you can't double up CeeDee because you got to worry about Matthew Golden. Again, this guy is an elite threat on the outside, was awesome at Texas. If you watched him there, you would know that this guy can be a difference maker. Love the pick for them. Also like to mention, like what you said, this being our last mock, we got to throw everything in there. Edge rusher is still a high potential here, and if some reason Ashton Genty's available, look at that name coming off the board here, but we had him going
I
earlier.
think he could come off there if he does not come off at 6.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely one of the biggest landing spots for him if that doesn't happen. Moving on to number 13 here, with a team that needs to address the secondary. They may need to address that receiver position if Tyreek Hill decides he doesn't want to play for them next year. But for now, we're looking at the teams as they are assembled, and that's Tyreek Hill and that's Jalen Waddle. You're not picking receiver. And you're looking at that offensive line and saying, man, it isn't very good, and it's probably a unit that needs an upgrade, but the three best linemen are already off the board, and I just can't see anybody going here at 13. So I'm going to go to the safety position and grab Malachi Starks. You lost your best safety last year to the free agent market, a guy that was very good for the Dolphins. They need to replace that level of talent on the back end of the defense. Malachi Starks is phenomenal. This is a guy that, again, in 2023 was the best safety in college football. Had a down 2024, but again, it wasn't a down year for most standards. It was just a down year for him because of how good he is. You're looking at a guy that, again, it addresses a major need in the secondary to boost up the secondary, and he was just a dog in college. That's just as clear as day. Played for the Bulldogs, and he was a dog. So I think the Dolphins are pretty happy with that pick at 13.
I think that's a good spot for him to go. I think in a lot of these mocks, we've had him slipping too far based on his talent, but that's a really good spot for him. And I'll be taking here at 14 with the Colts. And this is an obvious choice. You see Tyler Warren ADP at 11.4, and there's a reason why. This dude is a perfect fit for the Colts. So he's always going at 14, and his ADP is at 11 because sometimes he's going even earlier than that.
Yeah.
He's never fallen past this because he fits this team perfectly. And I'm a big Colston Loveland fan, but this guy, it just speaks wonders to the tight ends in this league when we got two young tight ends playing in the same draft. This team's picking Tyler Warren.
Yeah, it is pretty much locked in. If Tyler Warren is available at 14, with the rumors surrounding the Colts and the need for a tight end that has some sort of level of talent because they just haven't had that, he just fits the scheme perfect. When you want to run your quarterback and when you have a stud running back in Jonathan Taylor, you go out and you grab a tight end that can block it like the best of them, but he also can be a difference maker. He can carry the ball if you want him to. He did it at Penn State a lot. He was a quarterback recruited out of high school and was committed to Virginia Tech at one point. Would have loved to have had that guy playing at Tech. Goes down to Penn State, becomes the best tight end in the country last year. A phenomenal weapon that, again, will just add so much to the Colts that need that kind of weapon on that team. Moving to number 15 here with the Falcons. Again, it's kind of a broken record at this point for me and Hoppy. Terry Fontenot doesn't pick defensive players. He hasn't done it in the first round in 4 years. Now's the time. If you're ever going to do it, hey man, your defense is horrible, and you've picked four straight offensive players, including a backup quarterback and a tight end that hasn't succeeded. You got to go get a defender. You have to, and you got a guy that you can go down the road and watch play. Heck, they even play in your stadium sometimes. It's the perfect fit. Jalen Walker is an unbelievable edge rusher that shows those flashes of super high potential, has unbelievable speed coming off the edge. But again, he is a prototypical linebacker moving down to edge, and it can just be a difference maker. Again, I think the Falcons will finally address that need on the defensive side in the first round, and Jalen Walker is just the perfect fit.
Yes, yes, sir, he is. And I think that's the perfect pick and a perfect team for him to go to. I'm going to be taking number 16 here with the Arizona Cardinals. And I just got to take Josh Simmons here. I got to stick to my guns. He is the guy in this draft that I think 10 years down the road, when people are saying, well, let's redraft this mock, I think Josh Simmons is going to be a top 10 pick every single time you have that conversation because he's just fallen too far because of injury, no other reason. He seems to be a hard worker. He played on a competitive team that faced good talent all year, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, again, this guy's phenomenal. I mean, he is. He would be talked about in that top two tackle conversation without the injury. If you go back and watch the Ohio State tape, actually, their center, their left guard, and their left tackle were some of the best players available at those positions. Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin at the center position, and then, of course, the guy you just picked in Josh Simmons. It's unbelievable how good that Ohio State offensive line was. And there's arguments to be made for Donovan Jackson being picked this high in this draft, although we don't have him going. It just shows what that Ohio State team can produce on the outside. I think you can trust him as a player. Again, he was phenomenal when he played, health being the only question mark. The Cardinals, a team that has to protect their quarterback. Kyler Murray has already faced a serious injury. They've now got the receiver on the outside to help out Murray. Go get the tackle, keep him healthy, and even if it doesn't work out there, move somebody else inside and let him play tackle. He's too good not to be playing that position for the Cardinals. Moving on to number 17 here with the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team that to this point still has not traded Trey Hendrickson, so I'm going to move away from saying they pick an edge rusher. I think that at this point they might stick with Hendrickson, and you're looking at, to me, two positions of need that have to be addressed. That is the interior defensive line, and that is the linebacker unit. Today, and in our final mock, I'm going with defensive line. I think that it's the position that they will address. Again, you're looking at a Desperate team. They have to address this. It's been bad to watch this team play football the last couple of years because you have an MVP level quarterback and two of the best receivers in football, but a defense that can't get you over 8 wins. You have to address it. I'm going with Kenneth Grant. He is the big bodied, run stopping defensive tackle. He isn't going to bring you the kind of, pass rush ability that a Walter Nolan would bring you up the middle, but he does bring you the run stopping ability as well as just being a brute force on the inside. I like Kenneth Grant a lot to go number 17 to the Cincinnati Bengals.
I'm going to be on the clock here with number 18 on the Seattle Seahawks. And I got to go out there and I got to take Gray Zabel. You know, he's the guy out there that can play center and guard for these teams. And out of all the tackles on this app, he's the one that can play center and guards. That's where we're taking him the highest. That's why his value is the highest because he can play all three positions. And that's very impressive.
Yeah, again, the odds of him sticking at tackle in the NFL are pretty much 1% or less. That isn't going to happen because of his size. But wow, is he unbelievable on the interior. Again, they had him at the Senior Bowl. He was the player of the week at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy coming from the FCS level of college football, playing at North Dakota State. Very impressive player. Again, he was bodying people. I mean, you put him in those drills on the field and let him get rushed by a D lineman or an edge rusher, and it was fun for him. He loved that. So again, you like to see the competition from him. You like to see an offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Again, Gray Zabel fits the big need of guard and center for this team, and he also fits that profile of they won't pick anybody unless they're a tackle. So he fits it perfectly. Gray Zabel goes down there to the Seahawks. Moving on to number 19 with the Buccaneers, a team that we've seen take this player, I don't know, 5 or 6 times in our 9 mock drafts. I'm doing it again, and I'm doing it in our final one, and it's Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. Again, the production king of college football. If you want an edge rusher, Mike Green is the guy. And again, 17 sacks, produced at the highest level, constantly in college, makes a lot of sense to the Buccaneers, has been linked to the Buccaneers during this entire process. And the off the field stuff was a bit concerning for a little while. We saw him kind of go up and down the board a little bit with that. But again, that stuff is not fully confirmed. We haven't really seen anything hard evidence on that for what happened in the past. And if you're just talking about the football player and what he brings you, it's arguably the best in the class behind Abdul Carter. I love Mike Green to the Buccaneers at 19.
And I think that's a great pick just simply because he was the best player available. And I'm going to be taking number 20 after that pick here with my favorite team, the Denver Broncos. And I was very excited at one point to take Loveland, but I absolutely loved us signing on to Ingram. I think he fits our offensive scheme really well. So because of that, I think we need to go out there and get a running back in Omarion Hampton who can help our quarterback, on dump off plays whenever, the O-line fails him or whenever they need to trick the defense into, quick play action dump offs. I think he can really fit our offensive scheme well as well. And we don't need the tight end anymore. I would love to take Loveland. I think he's very talented, but we just need the running back to fit.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he's the pick here. For me, Marion Hampton is the guy. It makes a lot of sense. They're a team that has desperate need at the running back position. They just need some production from that position, which they haven't got much of. They did go out and draft a North Carolina running back last time. He didn't succeed, but now you're grabbing a guy that was far better in college than Javonte ever was. And of course, he can catch passes. He can block very good for a running back. So that will also help out Bo Nix in the backfield. And again, he's just a difference maker. He is a guy that will be very fun to watch. And also, watch out in these fantasy drafts. This is a guy that might produce very, very high amount of points per week because he's going to get
PPR.
yeah, he's getting every single snap. Moving on to pick number 21 here with the Steelers. This is a team that needs a lot of things. They have to address the quarterback position, which they have yet to do. Again, Aaron Rodgers seems to be the option at that position, but that hasn't been made. That deal is not signed. So they could definitely be a team that we look out for to trade out of the first round or maybe trade back in the first round and select a quarterback. We're not doing that today. And you're looking at a team that needs a defensive lineman. I'm grabbing an interior defensive lineman in Walter Nolan. Now, he doesn't necessarily fit the scheme of this super big, run stopping, plug in the hole type of defensive lineman, but he is an interior defensive lineman that will provide you with a pass rush ability as well as pretty good run stopping ability. Again, not as good as some of the other guys we've drafted in this class. Originally, I think that they were looking at a guy like a Kenneth Grant. That's that more bigger bodied defensive lineman. But if Walter Nolan falls to you at 21 with the ability he brings, Again, he's a game wrecker. He can do things from the interior defensive line that many players can't do. I love Walter Nolan going 21 to the Steelers.
Yeah, and like you said, this Steelers team has a great defense, so Walter Malone will have plenty of help out there, and they won't be able to double him, and that'll just help him out even more, start of his career. And as I'm picking for my rival team in my team's division here, the Chargers, I think they would go ahead and pick Colston Loveland here. As bad as I hate to see him go to a team that I got to play multiple times. I think he's the pick here. He plays in the slot a lot in college, and he can do that in the NFL as well, in my opinion. I think he'll fit really well with Justin Herbert, and maybe Herbert can have a return to earlier year glory
Yeah.
again with him.
Yeah, and Herbert again, the production has been there at points in his career. He has looked very, very good. I think he is very, very good. It was a guy that if you asked me a year before his draft date, going into his final season of college football, he was getting mocked to the Titans, and I was extremely excited. I was like, "Holy crap, we're going to get Justin Herbert to be our next quarterback," and that would have been awesome because if you watched his final college season, he moved himself up to number 6 in the draft the next year. Titans weren't picking at that point back then. We were a little bit more successful. But again, he goes out and grabs Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end with the Michigan head coach who won a national championship together. It makes way too much sense. It's a team that desperately needs weapons for Herbert. And he goes out and gets a guy he's comfortable with, who was easily the best player on his college team last year on the offensive side of the ball. It just is a difference maker, and he can come in and do a lot of things for this team. Moving on to pick number 23 here with the Green Bay Packers, a team that we've heard them want to address the receiver position. There just isn't that X outside receiver available at this spot, but there is an X superstar corner that really proved he can run with the best of them. Obviously, was the Thorpe winner in college. Give me Jahdae Barron. Again, I love this player to the Packers. He makes a ton of sense to a team that desperately needs to add to the cornerback position. He's a very versatile corner who can play the slot position and give you very good play from there. Again, what he did at Texas was very impressive, doing that a lot for them, but also can go to the outside and still keep up with those receivers. Again, running in the 4.3s, kind of unexpected from him. Again, I love Jahdae Barron, and if he's available at 23, I think it's a home run pick for the Packers.
All right, I'll be picking on the clock here, number 24 with the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to be taking a safety here because I think there's a lot of talented safeties. Or the most talented safety left is more talented than the most talented corner left. So I'm going to be taking Nick Emmanwori. And I think he's just a stud. I think he can come in and really outperform his grade. Not his, combine grade. His draft day grade was insane. But, I mean, his expectations, I think he can really outperform them in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, yeah, like you said, the combine grade is one of the all-time greatest. Inside the top 5 for safeties in the history of football to grade out of the combine. Unbelievable speed, unbelievable vertical. Was very, very good in coverage, but also a 6'3" guy that can also come downhill and tackle. So he just is. He's different. Nick Emmanwori is a phenomenal athlete. This is a team that does need the safety position to be addressed. Harrison Smith is the perfect guy to teach him and let Nick Emmanwori learn from him. And I think that's just the perfect pick for the Vikings at 24. Moving on to pick number 25 here with the Houston Texans, a team that can go a lot of ways. But to me, the biggest need is offensive line. And you're looking at an offensive lineman that did an unbelievable job in college. That's Donovan Jackson, a guy that I've seen climb up draft boards recently. They expect him to be able to play the interior offensive line position, but also to come out and play some tackle. If you watch this team in the playoff, that was their tackle, their left tackle in the college football playoff, a guy that had played guard his entire career. Josh Smith gets hurt. He has to move outside to tackle. And by the time he was finished playing college football with the Ohio State Buckeyes, he was arguably one of the best tackles in the country. That's how good he was in that short time span, just learning a new position at left tackle. This team and the Texans, they have to address the offensive line. You lost your best offensive lineman in Laramie Tunsil via the trade, and you had CJ Stroud running for his life with Laramie Tunsil. So if you don't go out and get a lineman, it's completely questionable what else you're going to do. I love Donovan Jackson. Great pick here at 25 for the Texans.
Yeah, and you want to see CJ Stroud bounce back after his incredible rookie year and then a down year in the second year. You want to see him have the ability to come back. I'm picking once again at number 26, just like always on the even numbers. And I'm going to take the guy that's the best available player And I'm going to take Jahad Campbell. He's a good linebacker. We've seen him fall as far as the last pick in a lot of our mock drafts. But, push come to shove, I think that the Rams might want him. They might get enticed by him. They might take him at number 26.
Yeah, and again, he's the best linebacker in this draft, not debatable. He is easily the best linebacker. He is a guy that can bring you a ton of versatility. Again, I think he sticks to the linebacker position and plays that primarily, but he could even come off the edge a little bit if he wanted him to. Again, just an unbelievable player. Jahad Campbell, one of the best players in college football last year, comes to the NFL after having a pretty good combine and becomes one of the best guys in the NFL this upcoming season. Moving on to pick number 27 here with the Baltimore Ravens, a team that I've loved to land a safety here, but as you see in our final mock, we've got both of the top safeties off the board. Those two guys obviously not being available here has led me to go address the secondary in a different way. Today, I'm going to do that by getting Maxwell Hairston, a combine hero, obviously ran a very good 40 time, one of the top performers, actually the top performer in this year's NFL draft. I love Maxwell Hairston to the Baltimore Ravens. Hoppy, move on to number 28 here.
All right, I'll be picking number 28 here with the Detroit Lions. And I got to go out there and I got to get a guy that was projected to be maybe number one in the draft, as Dalton would tell you over and over again. Big Tennessee fan is Dalton. And I'll take James Pierce Jr. This guy has all the talent in the world. A lot of talented edge rushers in this class. I'm really excited to see how it all pans out, which one of these edge rushers will be the best. And James Pierce Jr. certainly has a shot to be the best one out of all of them when we look back at it. So, it's a good pick for the Lions, and I'll let you explain to them even more reasons why it's a good pick.
Yeah, and again, this is a guy that we've heard of the issues off the field being a potential thing with him. I know you've heard about him as well. It's something we've talked about a lot. They have a coach that can go in and address those issues. They have a guy that can really get to him in Dan Campbell, and I think it just makes a lot of sense if they go out and grab James Pierce Jr. Again, you're grabbing an edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson that can be a game wrecker, a game changer. I love that pick for the Detroit Lions, and it just makes them that much better in their Super Bowl push. Moving on to pick number 29 here with the Washington Commanders. And to me, it's another easy pick. It's Donovan Ezaraku, the edge rusher from Boston College. We talk about production freaks. We've said it many times. A lot of these teams like to grab those guys that are very high producers, that put, pretty good tape out there and let you look at these guys and say, man, they can produce for me when they get to the league. I think Donovan Ezaraku is a perfect example of that. And landing him at 29 is really nice for a Commanders team that's also trying to make that Super Bowl push with their new quarterback and new overall system.
I'll be picking here again at number 30 with the Bills, and I think it's time that this team goes out there and takes someone that can finally help them get over this Patrick Mahomes hump. And it's not offense; they have offense. I mean, Josh Allen's the type of guy who's kind of like Aaron Rodgers in his prime. If you have this guy, he's gonna make your offense good. You need to go out there and you need to improve the defense. And Shamar Stewart gives you the highest end potential to do that. So that's who I'm gonna take here for the Bills today.
Yeah, and again, you said high end potential. He has unbelievable potential. He is a guy that the production, again, on tape isn't all there. It isn't all, oh, this guy's a freak. But if you actually sit down and watch him play, he's a game wrecker that changes games in different ways. Again, was a 280 pound, 290 pound edge rusher in college. So when he's bringing you that kind of ability as an edge rusher, again, he could even play some D line at that size. He's just a freak, and we saw his combine being one of the best raw scores we've ever seen from that. So yeah, I love Shamar Stewart. And Hop, you got us again here at 31.
And you talk about them taking an edge rusher to try to beat the Chiefs. Everyone in the league has watched the Super Bowl last year, and they have found out, hey, we beat the Chiefs by having good edge rushers. So the Chiefs are going to have to go out there and they're going to have to stop those edge rushers. And we got to take Josh Connerly Jr. He's the best offensive lineman available, and that's exactly why they need to take him. Is everybody in the NFL knows that's their cheat code now. That's how you beat them.
Yeah.
And they got to prove them wrong. And until they do, that's what everyone's going to think.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the Chiefs has been they don't draft great at the tackle position. So go out and get a guy that's a little bit more proven in Connerly. And he had an ugly clip from the Senior Bowl. We've talked about it before. But again, he's still a very, very good player. Was great at Oregon in his time there. And they can go out and address the tackle position, which again, they desperately have to add an offensive tackle in this upcoming draft. Moving on to pick number 32 here with the Eagles. And it's a team that every single time we do one of these drafts, it feels like, hey, they're getting a steal. They're going to end up getting another Georgia steal in Mykel Williams, a guy that we literally in the early processes of this draft class, we were like, hey, this guy can go in the top 15. He's fallen all the way to 32, and we've actually had the guy we used to have falling to 32, moving up a little bit to 26. But again, you look at the overall board, and it's really nice when the Eagles can replace some talent that they lost with Mykel Williams and just add to an already insanely good pass rush with a just dog coming out of the Georgia Bulldogs on that defensive side of the ball. That's it for our 32 picks. This is it, our final mock. And Hoppy, we're looking at the board here. What picks stand out to you?
It stands out to me after doing all these drafts that there's just a lot of good edge rushers in this draft. Like I said, I can't wait to see which one of these edge rushers will go out there and really separate themselves. I think, it was a hard draft to predict. I mean, it really was because there's so much back end talent in this draft where these edge rushers could really switch spots. Sometimes they could fall at different spots, but I think we did overall a pretty good job of guessing what will happen. I think, at least positionally wise, we did an excellent job. And I'm excited to see how these rookies will perform going into next year, especially Ashton Genty. And if my team gets Hampton, I'm very excited to see how he does. So that's pretty much all I'll say about this one.
Yeah, and it being our last mock, I'm going to look at this board one last time and say, man, I've enjoyed the process. It's been really fun for the first time I've ever covered a draft like this. I've always been in depth in it, but I've never put the content out there and kind of give my own opinions. But looking from bottom of the board back to the top of the board, starting at 32, Mykel Williams feels like a steal to the Eagles. Very, very good player that, again, early in our process, we had going higher, and early in the regular draft process, was shooting up boards and going higher. I love pick 31 to address that need for the Chiefs. And I also love pick number 30 for the Bills. Shamar Stewart, an ultra talented guy that brings you the high end upside on a team that's already really good and competing. And it maybe gives him a little bit of time to develop and mature going into the playoffs. You look at 26 with Jahad Campbell to the Rams, it just feels like the best linebacker in the class. They can address that issue. Again, I love what you guys are doing at 20 with the Broncos. It makes it more fun to watch a guy like Hampton run around and make a difference. And then we move into this top 16. I know Josh Simmons. I know you want to give him one last shout out, so I'll let you talk about him for another second here because he's just been your guy the whole process.
Uh, I've never once, known an offensive lineman before he came into the NFL, but through the process of making these videos, I've looked into this dude, Josh Simmons, and it pretty much seems to me like if he didn't get hurt, he would be the guy that was going forward to the Patriots, or at least possibly seven to the Jets. He's that type of talent, so I feel like he's definitely a top 10 talent that anyone past the top 10, if they get him, he's going to be a good pick for him.
Yeah, and again, like you said, the ability's all there. I knew you wanted to cover him because he just is he's been your guy in this draft process. Moving up the board just a little bit more, we see a guy like Will Johnson going high again in our very last mock. I think the NFL is high on him. I really do. I think that they like this guy a lot. I think that the ability that he's shown the last 2 years, it just warrants him being picked that high.
And he is a good attitude guy, isn't he? Will Johnson.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it's a guy that they loved him. He won a national championship with Michigan, and again, he brings the winning culture to your team, but also the ability of a really good corner. Again, the ball hawking skills being his best thing. You look at number 9 with Shador Sanders. Again, that's kind of a new development that we've had over the last two drafts, but that seems like a very surefire thing now with the Derek Carr rumor that he can miss the entire season. They have to address that position, and Shador makes a lot of sense. I also think he's a little bit safer at 9 than he ever was at, pick 3 or even pick 6 to the Raiders. Talking about the Raiders, I love Ashton Genty. If you're landing Ashton Genty, I think it's a successful draft. He's that good. And then obviously you look at the top 3. The final time we'll talk about these guys in a mock draft scenario, and that's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Cam Ward. I flip-flop between Abdul Carter and Cam Ward, all before the last 3 weeks, and it's kind of all but been kind of confirmed that we're going to go Cam Ward. But I loved Abdul Carter early in the process. Big fan. And if the Browns are getting him, that edge rush duo is very, very scary. It's going to be very hard to beat the Browns when they're bringing Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter after you every play. And last but not least, the boys in blue, the Titans. This is it. This is their franchise quarterback. This is their future quarterback. And when you go to that new stadium, you hope he's proven himself by then. And he can say, I'm going to lead this team to the potential push for that AFC like we did, in 2019 with Ryan Tannehill. I love the pick. I think that he's shown a lot on tape. I think he has a super high ceiling. And if we get him and he turns out to be great, look back at these drafts and say, man, we picked it. So yeah, I love Cam Ward, and that's it for our looking at our overall review. And we'll just move into the closing remarks here, Hoppy. we have had a lot of fun in this process. It's been up and down. We've had a lot of different players going in different places. Of course, early in the process, like I said, I was a completely different guy. I didn't think Cam Ward was going to end up going at one. I didn't know if the Titans really wanted to do that. And now we figured it out that Cam Ward seems like the surefire pick. Is there anything that stood out to you in the process? And also, you know, give a shout out to your Broncos. I know you want to do that as well.
Yeah, I want to shout out the Broncos, man. I'm happy we went and got Evan Ingram. I mean, as much as I did say earlier, I love Loveland. I'm glad we got Ingram. If you go look at the stats, Ingram is a good slot tight end, and we run a lot of tight end slot plays in our offense with Bo Nix. I'm excited to see us get an offensive piece. If we got a defensive piece, I would be happy because I always like to see defense because defense wins championships. I learned that the hard way when we lost with the best offense, and then 2 years later we had a horrible offense, but we won the Super Bowl because of our defense. So defense definitely is always more important, no matter what people tell you. But it is more fun to watch a good offense. So I would of course love to see us get the Omarion Hampton kid out of UNC. I think he's going to be really good, definitely better, like you said earlier, than Javonte Williams sadly ever was. But outside of that, through this process, I've learned a lot about college football players. I didn't know any of these players going out of this other than Ashton Genty. I mean, coming into making these videos, but I did my research to help out Maverick over here, and I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun. So I had a great time talking to y'all in these drafts and all that. So that's pretty much all I got to say.
Yeah, and again, it's been a super fun process. I mean, it has. It's been a ton of fun. We had the big time squads early on. We've changed the people on each and every week, and we've had some different showings and different groups. And we'll have one big recap after the draft's over coming up this week. And this is one of those things that one of these 32 players we just named will be a Hall of Famer. One of those guys is going to end up in the Hall of Fame someday. Generally, in the 32 picks, you're finding a Hall of Famer. Now, I shouldn't guarantee that because I guess you don't know that's going to happen. But one of those guys has that ability, and it's going to be which one did we pick to what team, and how many of these picks can we end up getting right.
Which
So
one will stay healthy? That's a big part of it. Which one of these guys will stay healthy? That's
yeah,
really important.
it's obviously the biggest thing with football too, in a contact sport with as much injury that occurs. Yeah, who can stay healthy and who can just put stats on paper, who can create over a long career, and obviously you know it's been a fun process. Like I said before, I know a lot of these players. I knew a lot of these players from covering college football with Dalton for a long time. Coming into this season, that being my first year doing that as well. So it's been fun to see a lot of these players' names jumping up and down the board based on where I think they're going to go, and also based on the seasons I just watched them have. So that was also pretty cool. Wrapping up this process, as you know, we always talk about at the very end. If you like it, subscribe, follow along, keep up with us. It helps a ton to just keep the channel going, and hopefully we keep gaining subscribers and keep getting the videos out to more and more people. Obviously, I enjoy this a ton. It's definitely something I love putting time and effort into, and so it's been a fun process overall. Again, thank you guys so much, and peace.
Peace.